The Alan Austin Show is honored to have author Jeff Pearlman on this evening. Jeff is the author of the new book, Ring Circus, Kobe, Shaq, Phil, and the Crazy Years of the Lakers Dynasty. Jeff, thank you for being here.
Come on, you asked, I show up.
I appreciate that. So you've got the new book out. It's about the Lakers, the late 90s, early 2000s, the big, like you say, the Ring Circus, ring, of course, the great pun, how witty of you. And can you
Not that witty.
Just like off the bat, what was your experience researching this book and diving into the lives of the people who are the subjects of this book, the likes of Kobe Bryant, Shaquille O'Neal, Phil Jackson, Nick Van Exel, Dennis Rodman, and so on and so forth?
It was exhausting. It was long. It took 2 years. It was enriching. I like that you get to I like digging into the lives of people. I mean, it's why I became a journalist, I think. So, I flew to Montana to be with Phil Jackson. I flew to Atlanta to hang out with Shaq. Flew to Dallas for a bunch of players. A lot of guys I drove to different parts of California. I just like the process of sitting down with people and having this thing that you know about and then dissecting it and digging deep into it. So that's really kind of the joys of journalism, and I was able to do that. So that was cool.
Yeah, I mean, you only know what you see from afar, right? Before you deep dive.
I mean, I've been a sports writer for a long time, so you certainly have conversations with peers in the business who explain some things to you. Sorry, but I don't. I was no expert. I probably would say now I have a PhD on the subject. I probably entered as a first-year undergrad.
Oh, okay. Now, Kobe Bryant is a big part of this book, and your author's note was so wonderfully written.
Thanks.
Can you please take me through what it was like to, I don't know, did you get to work with Kobe one-on-one?
No.
And then, no? Oh, okay, so after studying him, learning about him, and then hearing this tragic news, gut punch, I'm sure, as it was for most of the sports fans across the world. But being that you worked so closely amongst the Lakers and studying Kobe, what was it like hearing this news and the aftermath for you?
In a lot of ways, writing the book helped me understand the devastation that I live out here in Southern California, and the devastation that was felt here. I don't think it was something I was an expert in. Like I knew Kobe Bryant was great, but not in that different a way. Connection to the fan wise is like I was growing up in New York and Patrick Ewing was great. Or whoever your favorite players is great. But then you live out here, and having gone through it, you realize what really moved people about him was this determination and this idea that I'm going to set my mind to it, I'm going to work my ass off, and then it's going to happen. And I just think, like, when he died, what you saw was a response to that as much as anything. Like, Kobe was my guy. He taught me how to work hard. Kobe was my guy. He taught me that if you dream it, you actually can make it a possibility. Kobe was my guy because he was out there at 2 a.m. working out, taking jumpers while everyone else was partying. Like, Kobe was my guy because he exemplified what it meant to freaking be dogged and hard and edgy. And he wasn't always the most likable human being, and he had moments of not good at all, but like he meant something to people because he was the fruition of a dream. And I think he represented that. And I think that's why people were moved by him. And I think that's what I learned about him. And in turn, I was moved by him because of that.
That's awesome. Yeah, and based on what you said, you kind of go right into it off the bat. You go from the author's note, which wonderfully articulates how a man is not a moment in time. He is not represented by a little sliver of what his life was. And then it goes right into the story of the bus incident with Maki Walker and the punch. And you kind of set the tone early that he is beloved, but this is a certain moment of time that we are going to analyze. And I think personally, you set a great tone as to nobody's going to think this is anything against him, more informative and, a time capsule kind of moment. So,
I mean, it was being honest, and also it was probably being a little defense mechanism as well. Like I didn't want people to think here's some guy who's capitalizing on Kobe Bryant's death. Oh, he died. Some guy's turning around a quick book, and that's how he's, that's one thing you don't want, that I was really nervous about. So put it up for that reason also, because it's true. Like Kobe Bryant was a brash pain in the ass when he was 24 years old. When he was 41, he was his dad of 4, and he kind of found himself. And you're not who you are when you were younger. It's like, how old are you? 20 what?
I'm 31.
Oh, 31. All right. if I even judge myself, I'm 48. So if I judge myself at 48 by some of the things I was doing at 31, I'd be like, what were you doing at 31? That was stupid. What were you thinking? You know, like, so I just think it's really a shame sometimes we do with athletes to judge them by who they were when they were young. And you should change. Most people evolve in life. It's part of the process.
You know, it's interesting. A lot of your books deal with athletes who may not be the men they were then now. You've dealt with a lot of characters, and, you know, between the 86 Mets or the Cowboys dynasty, the public figures that were Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens, you've run the gauntlet on the who's who of sports figures over the years. So, you know, I find it very interesting that here's yet another one. But the death of Kobe Bryant in relation to this book is probably, and correct me if I'm wrong, the biggest news story from a subject you've covered.
I mean, yeah, it would have to be. He died.
Yeah.
So it'd be hard to find something that would rival that. And also, like, it'd be weird if these people were the same people they were at 24 when they were in their 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s. I mean, that would be some severe stunted growth right there. You know, like, one of the reasons you're able to enjoy it all when you're a New York Met in 1986 and you're 24 is because you're young enough and your metabolism is quick enough and you're not smart enough that you'll go out till 3 a.m. and get wasted and throw up in a gutter and hook up with some, you know, woman you meet in a bar and then come back the next day and play the Cubs. But if you were doing that at 55, you'd just be a loser. You know, like, it's like when the old TV show Happy Days, when Fonzie is really cool, and then one day you realize, oh, he's just an older guy in a leather jacket hanging out with a bunch of high school kids. You're really not that cool after all. So the personal evolution of athletes is something I really enjoy. And what I really enjoy is when athletes are able to look back and realize they were kind of jerks, or that they weren't that cool, or that they misunderstood life and didn't realize the value of things until they got older. There's something kind of beautiful in that because it's how it should be.
Interesting. I could think of a couple 86 Mets who may still be trying to live in the past and need to take that next step that they haven't yet. And
there's a difference. But there's a difference between, like, Dwight Gooden may cross the mind, but Dwight Gooden is a drug addict. Like, he's not trying to live in the past. He just can't escape his addictions.
Right. I was thinking more Dykstra, who can't seem to escape whatever world he's living in.
He's just kind of crazy. I think he has mental illness, to be honest with you. That's my guess.
Okay, fair enough. So, you know, I have writers on this show, believe it or not, and they all sent me the same question. They want to know, it's burning in their minds, do you still keep in touch with John Rocker?
He actually is downstairs right now. He came for Rosh Hashanah and he's staying for Yom Kippur. So John Rocker is downstairs. He wishes you a happy New Year. And are you Jewish?
My fiance is.
All right, close enough. We'll count you. He wishes you a happy New Year. He wishes you luck, and he hopes that you and your fiance have children and throw a bar mitzvah. And he's right downstairs. He's the best. John.
Wow. That's going to be quite a hangry fast for him next week.
He'll bring his gun. He'll bring his Speak English T-shirts. He'll bring his Trump posters. He'll be very happy here. It'll be great.
Oof. All right, so on this show, we like to play games with our guests. We're going to play a little game. We're calling it Kobe, Shaq, or Phil in celebration of your new book. So I'm going to ask you a hypothetical, and you tell me who of the three would best exemplify the choice being made. So First one is, you're on a road trip. Who's driving? The three of them.
Phil, because when he was the coach of the Albany Patroons, he would drive the team van of the CBA, the old Continental Basketball Association. He would drive the van because there was the most legroom. So he is used to taking these long drives. I would say Phil Jackson.
Awesome. Who's controlling the radio?
Oh, Shaq. Easy. Without question, Shaq.
All right. Now you're in war. One of those three men is in your foxhole with you. Who do you want it to be?
Oh, Kobe. I mean, he was just an absolute stone-cold destroyer of people, and kind of fearless and just determined and wouldn't take no for an answer. There are stories of the Lakers having they used to play paintball every training camp in Hawaii, and they would divide the team, Shaq team and Kobe's team, and supposedly Kobe was just a ferocious, cold stone killer of a paintball player. So Kobe.
Wow. Okay. You have a big dinner with a ton of guests. Who's cooking the meal?
I think Shaq. I guess Shaq. I don't know if he can cook. He just seems like he'd be a fun guy to have at a big dinner with a bunch of guests.
Okay.
Whenever there's any doubt, whenever it's about joy of the room, it's got to be Shaq.
Okay. Of the three men, who would you choose to be the best man at your wedding?
I feel like Shaq would steal the spotlight of my wedding. I feel like Kobe might be overly competitive. I think I would go Phil Jackson. I feel like he'd give a really good toast. He'd be very gracious, and he'd do a solid job. So I guess I'd go Phil.
Okay, but Shaq would probably throw the best bachelor party.
He would throw a good bat. There'd be plenty of strippers and champagne. That's true.
Okay, which of these three men would be the best president of the United States?
I think Kobe. I think Kobe would be great. Sadly, he's deceased. I think Kobe would be great. I think he's smart. I think he has good intentions. I think he's people would listen to him. He's a really good leader. I would say Kobe. Shaq would be too. I don't think Shaq would be serious enough for the job. And I think Kobe's probably the smartest of the three.
I've got to say, serious enough for the job is no longer a qualification needed.
No kidding. No kidding.
All right, last question, and it has nothing to do with the other three. We're taking a little detour.
Okay.
The three choices you can pick from are the 86 Mets, the Cowboy Dynasty, or this three-ring circus. If you could go back and be a member of the team for any one of those groups, who would you play for?
Got to be the 86 Mets. Number one, it's my hometown. Number two, the team was just insane, but they were beloved. The parties were amazing. Yeah, World's Ticker Tape Parade in New York City. No COVID. I'm going 86 Mets without question. Who would you be?
Me, of those three, I would pick the 86 Mets. I'm a baseball guy through and through. I'm a Detroit Tigers fan, even though I'm from New Jersey.
Why is that?
I honestly think so. My father, who's a diehard baseball fan, was a Brooklyn Dodger fan, and when they left, he no longer had an allegiance to any team. So I kind of just went with the flow. And when I was a kid, early 90s, the Tigers had that hat where the Tigers coming through the D for their road cap. And I think I just thought it was my favorite hat, and I've stuck with them ever since. My favorite player of all time is Travis Fryman. So it's quite a old.
That is weird.
I've always stuck with them, though. So there's been some lean years, but I guess that's where I can relate to Met fans, because being in this market, I see their pain and agony, and it's relatable for a Tigers fan.
I will tell you, I have this very rare disease where I cannot tell you where my car keys are, but I can tell you that Travis Fryman wore number 17 for the Detroit Tigers.
And, well, he wore 17 for the Cleveland Indians, 24 for the Detroit.
Ah! All right, well, 17 for the Indians. Okay.
But I bet you may know where your car keys are now.
Didn't he also play for Arizona, Travis Fryman?
Funny, he technically played for Arizona.
Fine with them.
He got traded to them in the expansion draft.
All right.
And they
Yes.
flipped him to Cleveland for Matt Williams.
I get points for that.
Definitely. Oh, you got a 99 percentile. You are. Yeah. That is some hot trivia that the fans of this show are going to go wild for. I'm telling you.
You should start your very own Travis Fryman themed podcast and YouTube show. I think it'd be great.
That's how you get a podcast going. You find a niche and you run with it, right?
That's a niche right there, Travis Fryman.
Yeah, that's a niche. I probably will never be able to get him on as a guest. He has no social media presence. Seems to have just resorted into the Florida woods, and that might be it for old 24.
That guy should be in the Hall of Fame. Travis Fryman should be in the Hall of Fame, and you and I should start the Travis Fryman Hall of Fame movement. I think we could do it.
I would love that. He got a vote. When he was on the ballot, he got one vote. So,
all right, wait, before you let me go,
yeah,
give me your argument right now, as best you can, for Travis Fryman. I am the Hall of Fame.
Okay.
You're Travis Fryman's attorney.
Yep.
Why should Travis Fryman be in the Hall of Fame?
Travis Fryman was competing in a steroid-laced era, completely clean. There has never been a whisper. There has never been a doubt towards Fryman's legitimacy when playing the game of baseball. Okay. He was a third baseman all-star. He was a stud shortstop when he came up to the league. Career 284 hitter. Don't quote me on that. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
The guy played on some bad teams, but he was always the best player. He was a perennial thorn in his opponent's side. He was a quiet leader. He was a sweet swinging right-handed bat. He always batted 2, 3, 4, 5, never really out of that, realm. And in terms of historical significance, he's the guy who dropped the bunt that caused Chuck Knobloch's career to go into a tailspin. So he should at least have his own memorabilia wing for that alone. Travis Fryman is a guy who led his teams with heart and decency through an era which was tainted for sure by the likes of 50 homer seasons from Brady Anderson types. This is a guy who stayed consistent throughout that entire run. He belongs in the Hall of Fame, entered by the Veterans Committee.
Number one, I know you don't really believe that. Number two, he has 223 lifetime homers, and his lifetime average is 274.
I got the 2 and the 4 right.
That's all right. He has 1,776 hits. I think if we're going to get Travis Fryman, and you're going to start having to make moves for like David Cohn, David Wells, definitely Keith Hernandez, like a lot of guys, that would open the floodgate. Dale Murphy's a lock. Dave Parker's a lock. Yes. All of a sudden, it opens the floodgates for every Travis Fryman to be in there.
Harold Baines got in.
But this gets Harold Reynolds in. See, that's the difference.
I will argue that Travis Fryman was a better baseball player than Harold Reynolds, and I like both of them.
You can make that argument. Fair enough.
But you know what? Here's my other route to get him in the Hall of Fame. Fight for him to become a manager, which is what he wanted to do at some point. Have him become the most winningest manager, the winningest manager in the history of baseball, and he's in.
Obviously, that would happen if he's made a manager. He obviously would be the best manager in baseball.
I agree. In fact, I'm sorry to bother you with this story, but he managed Class A short season up in upstate New York for the Indians back when Jason Kipnis, I believe, was on the team. My father and I drove up to get his autograph, and he signed everything. I was like a kid who couldn't – I was stuttering. I saw my idol standing right there. And he was super nice, and he was managing, and he seemed like a tough but fair manager. I think he'd be great at the big league level. And
not for nothing, during Travis Fryman's time in Arizona, the Diamondbacks did not lose a game.
They did not. They did not. And he did not make an out as a hitter.
Or an error.
Yeah.
He was perfect as a Diamondback.
He should be in the Hall of Fame for his Diamondbacks run alone.
I don't know why they haven't retired his number. That's some serious bullshit right there. They should have retired his number a long time ago.
I completely agree with you.
I'm with you.
Jeff, thank you so much for joining the show and playing along. Ring Circus is available now wherever books are sold. First time I've ever gotten to say that. Very happy to.
You didn't ask me where my next book is.
What's your next book going to be?
Duh. It's a biography of Travis Fryman.
I know this is a little forward of me to ask, but if I could get an advance copy when it comes out, I would really appreciate that.
You're going to write the forward.
I would gladly love to do that.
We're in. We got it done. Travis Fryman, My Story by Travis Fryman with Jeff Pearlman.
That's
forward by Ellen Pines.
The fact that we're talking about him and that you have knowledge of him has made 2020 just so much better for me at this point. Like,
it doesn't take much though, does it? Anything,
low bar.
I pooped successfully this morning. 2020, it's getting better.
Things are looking up.
I feel you. Well, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Before you go, where can people find you on social media?
Well, you can go to my website, Travis Fryman Fan. You can, jeffpearlman.com or, get the book on Amazon or whatever.
And you're on Twitter, Instagram?
At Jeff Pearlman. Yeah, all that stuff.
Yeah, all right. Jeff, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. I hope you had as much fun as I have. And can't wait to see what's next for you after the Fryman book.
I do want to say one thing before I double go. I'm upset. You're not even pointing out. I'm sitting in my son's room because he kicked me out of my office. Emmitt Smith, Arizona Cardinals poster right there.
That's a pull. Yeah. That would make a buddy of mine, diehard Cardinals fan, very happy. Now,
his name is Emmitt, so that's fine.
What makes me happier is the New York Giants decal on the wall, being that I'm a Giants fan. So, well, there we go. Oh, there we go. This is unbiased. There's the best quarterback to come out of the 2004 draft. No.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Jeff. It's been a pleasure.
See you. Bye-bye.